It being 6 o'clock, I'm going to call the meeting of the Charter Review Commission to order. Everybody's here except Richard Smith. I haven't heard if he's coming or not, but I know he's had a very long day today. So if he's not here, I think his absence can be excused. First thing to do is to review the minutes of our last meeting. Did everybody get a copy of them?
Yes, but I wasn't here.
Okay. Were there any changes to them? Any amendments, updates, edits? If not, I'll take a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. First thing on the agenda tonight is we have guests. We have members from the Library Board of Trustees. It's Henry, right? Make sure. And Deborah Grimmett. Okay. And they have some thoughts about the charter. And I'd like to, unless there's any objections, let us know what they're thinking. All right. You have the floor.
Okay. Well, we're meeting in the wrong room because if we were over in the other room, I could look up to Mr. Potter, who we talked to about this originally. We went through a long process of making sure that the current charter under the state statutes and federal laws treated the library in the way that the state statute requires. And that is that we're an independent board of library trustees, as you are I'm sure aware. We're the 9-member elected board. So we are actually the largest board in town of elected officials.
Yeah.
And that we have the responsibility for control and management of the activities of the library under state statute, and it's a requirement. And to meet the requirements for state aid and things like that, we have to be that way. Went through quite a long discussion about how to word the charter in such a way that it reflected that statute and yet still respected the new town manager form of government knew at that time. And so we have a responsibility for the library and the property and the people in consultation with the town manager.
Could I ask a quick question to interrupt?
Yeah, go ahead.
Was it set up differently 20, 25 years ago? 30 years ago?
Before the current charter? Is it
Yeah.
Before the current form of government?
Yeah.
Not really. There was a town administrator at that point. We worked with several administrators. I believe that Jean had full control of the personnel at that point. So it didn't change. But there are some towns where they put it under a town manager or under some other function, and that is not what the statute designates and not what the statute requires for public libraries. And that statute goes all the way back to the 1800s. So we worked with Mr. Cotter, who was the town council at the time, Sean Cotter, and got that in place in the charter. And it's worked out very well. We've had through 4 different town managers, and everybody's felt that this was apparently, and this is the word that I got indirectly, the current town council said, well, that's a good system, but the language in the charter doesn't reflect that.
When you say that, what's...
Reflect the fact that we have control over the, it reflects the fact that we have control over the library director, but it doesn't talk about the other employees we under her control.
Okay.
So we think we can add 2 words maybe to this charter. And I don't know, Deb, if you want to fill in some of the gaps here with this and some of the specifics.
Sure. So the issue arose during union negotiations with the town's current labor council in terms of the appointing authority for library staff. The charter is very clear in Article 4, Section 4-2, Part B. It lists the town manager appointing authority, and then there are the exceptions, which include the library director, employees of the housing authority, and employees of the school department. Since library service began, and definitely since the beginning of the charter, the library director then appoints staff. And prior town managers and Scott have been agreed that that was what the charter meant. But there is a question as to whether or not it actually says it. Everybody has accepted that as what was intended, and that has been practiced since the inception of the charter and was certainly practiced before then. However, as we've moved along through various iterations of town council and whatnot, we've, the current Labor Council had some concerns about who was appointing library employees. I've spoken with Scott. I met with him again today, and he is very amenable and supportive of retaining the current system and of making the words actually say that. So what we would be looking to do, to be specific, is in that section B of our section, under B for 4-2, where it says, third line, including the library director under section 3-8, our suggestion is that we add the two words "and employees" between director and under. And that should make it crystal clear. Please understand that in the article about the Board of Library Trustees, it says, in consultation with the town manager, who shall act in the capacity of the principal personnel officer of the town.
Yep.
Neither the trustees nor I have any desire to be the principal personnel officer of the town. We, the union, and it's very clear, union negotiations with all unions are under the town manager's purview. And that is correct, and nobody wants to change that. Nobody wants to, we don't want to change anything. We just want to codify existing practice. And the reason for that is that hiring library employees under Chapter 78 of the Mass General Laws falls under the library director's purview. It also, the town paid the Collins Center to redo department head job descriptions. Thank you, sorry. It's actually warm. I don't open the window, a little warm. And in my job description, one of my essential functions is manage and oversee employees and volunteers, including managing internal workflow, planning staff schedules, monitoring and recording staff absences, and time accrual balances for payroll. This is then, the next part is important. Recruits, hires, orients, supervises, evaluates, discipline, and dismisses personnel. That was actually, I don't believe, in my prior job description. That was added by the Collins Center in recognition of their interpretation of the charter. So my job description, which was done in 2019, it was approved by the Board of Library Trustees, but not written by me or the Board of Library Trustees. I think clearly gives appointing authority for library staff to the library director.
Okay.
So that's kind of my backup to that.
So you've been here for several years.
Yes, I became.
I say that facetiously. I mean.
Children's librarian in 1986. I've been I was the acting director from 2008 to 2011 while I went to Simmons and got my master's degree, and I've been the library director without the word acting since 2011. So yes, quite a while.
Has there been, I'm just trying to think of why it might have been worded that way 20 years ago. Could have just been an oversight, could have been something else. I want to make sure it wasn't like, no, this was a past town administrator, town manager just wanting to have keep a toe in the water or something, or.
No, I think it was clearly an oversight. I worked with, and Deborah's predecessor, Gene Lothrop, and I worked with Attorney Sean Cotter, who was the town council at the time, and we spent a lot of time researching this and looking at it and making sure that we were in line. And I can tell you that it's never been the intent that the library director would not have had that authority under old rules, new rules, whatever. It's just an oversight in the wording.
Okay.
And I think you could interpret it different ways, but this particular attorney has interpreted that it raises a question, and even the town manager, I think, scratched his head and said, well, wait a minute.
No, it makes sense because the words after it, when talking about the school department, specifically says employees, and the
Yes.
housing department specifically says employees. So the
Yes.
fact it doesn't say employees would, certainly I can see why.
Yeah, I can see why the question was raised.
Mhm.
I can, and I think, and we were able to work with town council and get with town's labor council, and get the library union contract settled in a way that everybody was happy with. Part of the issue was there was some redoing of the management clause in all of the town's union contracts. Either, I think that's planned or has been done. And some of the wording there didn't mention the trustees because it was wording that was kind of a one-size-fits-all for departments that don't have trustees. So that's kind of where we are with that. And as I said, I did speak with Scott. I met with Scott this afternoon, and he said he's on board. He said, obviously, any wording, when we get to the point of wording, any wording is going to need to go to town council. And I think you guys are working with Lauren Goldberg from Copeland and Page.
Yes, she's the one who came by.
So it would need to go to her, and also ultimately then perhaps a conversation between she and the town's labor council to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Those contractual changes, do those impact anything substantial that it also impacts in the charter? Okay.
No, they actually, Labor Council made a change, and this was the town's suggestion in the contract. Find it, sorry. Where is it? I highlighted it, I thought. Nope, I wrote it down. Okay, here we go. In Article 4 of the contract, the grievance procedure for library employees was changed. So now it's step 1, library director, step 2, town manager, which makes sense as the chief personnel officer. And it used to say board of selectmen, which was standard across all contracts. And at the town's request, it was changed to the board of library trustees as the third step in a grievance thing, which suggests to me that that's where we need to be. I mean, that. So I think that Labor Council understands the intent, and we were certainly able to work through that, but I do believe that he would like it to say very specifically. And I think the Board of Library Trustees and I would like it to say specifically, just to make it crystal clear for everybody.
2 questions, just 2 more questions for me. Does the state MGL set how many people need to be on the library board of trustees?
It does not set how many people, but it says it must be a number divisible by 3.
Okay.
Now, a 3-person board is,
Yeah.
a 6-person board gives you an even number, so we have a 9-person board, and it's been that way since Burke Wales was on the library trustees.
Rich Smith was confused, thought it was online. He's going to call in for the meeting, so I'm just going to put him through for a moment.
Hello.
Hi, Rich.
How are you?
Good. You are live in the meeting, just so you know.
Excellent, thank you.
All right, it is being recorded. With us is Henry DiCarlo and Deborah Grimmett. Grimmett? Sure, I apologize.
It's fine.
They're discussing a brief, a small change to the charter that would clarify that, I guess, day-to-day management of library employees, hiring, firing powers rests with the library director, not the town manager. The town council raised that as a potential little loophole or gap in wording, if that makes sense. So one other question is, does the MGL say the board, and I'm not saying we should do this either way, just want to understand how it's established by the state, that the Board of Library Trustees needs to be elected versus appointed?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
Different towns have different ways of establishing boards. Library trustees in Abington, and that was definitely an issue in the creation of the charter, was to maintain an independently elected board of library trustees. The reason behind having an elected board as opposed to an appointed board, and one of the reasons why I've been here for my entire professional life, is libraries provide access to intellectual content. People's intellectual privacy needs to be protected, and an elected board definitely has a better chance at protecting people's rights to information if that becomes an issue.
Okay.
And a 9-member board, again, because you're dealing with intellectual property, is a safeguard against somebody wishing to censor something. You know, so that has, in my professional life, a large board of trustees, a 9-member board of trustees, and an elected board, I have felt has been important in terms of protecting library users and also in making it easier for me to do my job.
Okay. Is there any oversight the town manager has with the library day-to-day operations?
The charter says in consultation with, and yes, the town manager absolutely has, not so much day-to-day operations, but budgeting. The budget memo comes from the town manager and the financial services group, and we are required to obviously participate. We're currently working on capital planning.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that initiative comes from the town manager's office, and I have fulfilled all the requirements for that. In terms of personnel, the library union contract is negotiated by the town manager as the town's chief personnel officer. Those of us who are not in a union, we have a hybrid staff. Obviously, I'm not in the union, and anybody who works less than 20 hours a week is not fall under the town's personnel bylaws, which are administered by the town manager's office and by the treasurer collector's office. So those things come up with the in consultation, the board in consultation, or me in consultation with the town manager.
Another area would be legal services. We'd go through the town manager for any legal services.
Yeah.
As any part of the town would.
So we are definitely a town department. And we submit, and we're required, the submissions for the annual report are due on February 18th. I'll be submitting ours tomorrow. I mean, we are definitely a town department, and we definitely fulfill all of the requirements placed upon us by the town.
Okay.
And the charter allows for the selectmen and the town manager's office to inquire about things with any town department if they needed to, with any board or department, and certainly that if that was necessary, I'm sure that would be the case and questions would be answered. The initiative to redo job descriptions came out of the town manager's office.
So when you negotiate with the CBA, is that done through the board of trustees, or is that done through the town manager's office?
Town manager is the negotiator with, this time around with Labor Council, and I sit in on the negotiations to protect the trustees' interests and to, I'm obviously the person who understands how the department runs. So yes, and I met with Scott and Labor Council prior to negotiating sessions and after, to make sure that the contract worked for everybody.
Sorry for dominating the conversation. Does anyone else have questions?
I just want to clarify, if I can. So this current language, not the proposed language, but the current language was the result of basically like a rewrite in, not 2004, but it was a rewrite in the job description of the town manager, and this.
Well, yeah, we had a town administrator.
Right.
And we went to the town manager form of government.
Right,
and
so we're just cleaning up language.
This language has existed since that new charter was put in.
Yeah, and I went back and like in the 2004 charter, it spells it out a little bit better, but it's town administrator, so it's a different situation.
Okay.
Anyone else?
For Rich, I just would like to add that I did speak with Scott. He wasn't in on that part of the
Oh, yep.
meeting. And Scott has no issue or problem with this. I, thought that he needed to be up to speed and aware before we met with you. And that's an example of working together.
Rich, did you hear that?
I heard most of it. Try that again.
Try it again.
Okay. What I said was, I wanted you to know, I had said earlier, I did speak with Scott earlier. When you're talking about appointing authority and whatnot, I think it's important to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So Scott and I met this afternoon, and he is on board with us presenting this and going forward with it. He has no, I think he said he had no issue or no problem. He was fine with it. So I just wanted to put that out there for you because you weren't here at that point.
Understood?
All right. Any questions, Rich?
Nope, not for me. Thank you.
All right.
I have two other things I'd like to bring to your attention.
Sure.
One of them, and I have to say, I have not done the research on this as well as we did on the particular. We have a requirement as a board to approve and post minutes after 60 days. And there are a couple times a year when we don't meet, middle of the summer, holiday break. And we've run into issues where our next meeting is 64 days, where we can approve minutes. And I think that small tweak could be made to that, to maybe extend it to, 75 days or something, just to avoid that, where boards that don't meet every month and have to approve the minutes before they can be posted would still make achieve the intent of the charter, but give us situations where people don't go into violation just because.
I can tell you that there are many boards in this town that would be in violation if
Yes.
someone really did a check.
We like not to be.
Yeah.
We were very careful not to be.
And that would go to subcommittees of committees, which meet even.
Yeah, well, yeah. But there are multiple, I think, elected committees and appointed committees that are 60 days in arrear. But yeah, this would be part of, I think, the reminder of board policies and practices that, need to get them in. But you raise a good point where even if they do meet every month, there are times when people are out, where there's need to be corrections,
Can't approve the minutes, yeah.
that there's other issues, and now, like I said, all of a sudden I got 63 days. So, I mean, I don't.
The only other workaround would be to post non-approved minutes, but I think that gets into a gray area. So I don't have a good answer for this, but I just know it has come up a number of times, and it's been at times where we normally meet on a monthly basis, so it's not a huge issue. And we normally have enough people on the board that it's not a huge issue. We usually post the minutes, but there are a couple times around the holidays or around summer when we don't do that.
Nope. That makes sense. As a member of the planning board, will meet the first week in July. We take August off, and then we can't meet the first week in September because it's Labor Day. So it gets pushed into the next week, which would
so
be
you're in violation
in excess of 60 days.
And I don't know how you work that in. I'll leave that to you guys. You get the big bucks.
Watching all this.
I have one other one.
Yep.
And that is that this committee, your committee, is by charter designated to sit every 10 years.
Yes.
And it started out from the day when that new charter went into effect. The bylaws committee is set up to meet every 5 years. And it went into effect the day that new charter went into effect. So the bylaw committee and your committee, if everybody's following the rules of the charter, would meet in the same year. So if you make a change or recommend a change and the town approves it and the legislature approves it, whatever, that requires a subsequent bylaw revision because of some change your committee would make, they're not going to look at it for 5 more years. So I think that there might be a need to stagger the bylaw committee's years that it meets by 1 year and maybe by 2, because some of the stuff has to go to the legislature and come back. and you know how quick they are. Did I say that out loud? So this is, again, this has nothing to do with us directly, as a library, but as a member of the town government and a member and a citizen of the town, it's always bothered me that, oh, wait a minute, if you make a charter change, and now we have to put some bylaws into effect to implement that change, it doesn't, and it was something they probably should have staggered on day one and said, we'll meet every 5 years starting.
Yeah.
Like when we set up a new board or something and we staggered the positions to start off. So I throw that out for your consideration only because we're here.
So we're actually meeting a little earlier than we should. It hasn't been quite 10 years, but the thought was with the new town manager
Right.
and everything else going on that it probably would be worth it to get a jump. So that's why this was formed early. And I think one of the first conversations we had was how do we then transition into the bylaw phase? Because I think we're assuming there's going to be things where we say, well, if we make a change in the charter, it then flows down to a change that needs to be done through bylaw. But then also might be good suggestions that isn't a charter change, it's a bylaw change. So how can we then hand off information to the next group?
So,
I think the group 10 years ago actually flowed directly into the charter review became the bylaw review. I think 10 years ago. It seems like it.
but I think if you're implementing a charter change, I believe that many of them have to be approved by the legislature. Somebody up at the State House has to approve a change in the charter.
Major changes,
The
yes.
charter is issued by the state.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think, you may want to, and I'm not quite sure how you address it, maybe you set up another bylaw meeting in 2 years, and then 5 years from that each time, or, something along the line. But it's something that I think we do need to address and take a look at,
Nope, that's a good one.
to make it actually work the way that people would like it to work.
Maybe I totally missed it, but I guess there was a bylaw review done 10 years ago?
Yes, so.
Was there one 5 years ago?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think, was that in the big packet of information I gave a couple of meetings ago? I emailed out a bunch of PDFs, I think maybe a month and a half ago. But if not, I can redo it. There was so it would have been, I think 2014. The Charter Review Commission basically then flowed into the bylaw review. And then there was another bylaw review committee 5 years ago that had a couple small things.
Yeah. Right. And that schedule is spelled out in the charter. So anyway, just causing good trouble here.
Yep. Anything else we can do for you?
No, thank you for your time. We appreciate being invited. It's always good to be able to communicate, so thank you. And if you have questions or anything, I'm very easy to find.
Good. We may go dig through the Burton Wales room and find out the old Charter Commission meetings from a bunch of years back.
There you go.
All right. You are more than welcome to stay around if you'd like to.
Well, we hope you get some dinner.
Yeah, dinner
for you.
would be nice.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Consideration.
Yes.
Next on the agenda is a discussion of the proposed resident survey and possible vote. In the nick of time, I sent out my ideas, an hour ago. But I didn't know if anybody else had a chance to look at it, have any thoughts as to anything to add, anything to subtract. There he is.
I didn't see your ideas. Hello.
Long day, huh?
Never ends, right?
Sorry
for the delay.
That was Rick's ideas.
That's Rick.
So,
This is yours?
let me go make a quick copy of it. I think
That would be good.
the copiers are,
No, I just printed that.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to before I left the house.
yeah, it was my fault for not getting it out sooner, but it was just nothing substantial. I think a little bit of reworking my suggestions. But I'm curious of others.
Did they leave something?
Did Harry lose something? It might just be town hall info packets.
Yeah. it.
Oh, I saw those downstairs.
So I think the town manager said they might be able to send it out this month if we approve it.
Okay,
So they have the ability to.
Great.
So that is definitely an option.
Who would it go to?
Basically, whoever signed up for emails from the town.
Oh, that, yeah.
I don't know what the number is, but I know it's, I'm trying to remember. I think they got over 1,000 for when they did the communications one.
oh, that's great, that's good.
So it's a healthy number.
Yeah.
It's helpful to us.
Is there a way, I'm not sure how the town survey works, but is there a way to send that out or share it on like social, other ways, or is it just through that blast?
Yep, so there's a link that they can then
Okay.
blast out
All
other
right.
ways too.
That's good.
They?
Well, the town manager's office.
Oh,
Fine.
And then I think we could get a copy of it, and we can send it out to whatever little networks we have that we
Right,
want to as
okay.
well.
Does anybody know who's supposed to control in the library? I should have asked them. In the library, they have all the committee notebooks and so forth that are woefully not kept up. Is there anybody who's specifically responsible for that?
Good question.
I know it's in the care of the librarian, but I don't know how far that care goes except to provide a space for it,
Back,
which they do have.
I was on the trustees a number of years ago, and at that time, it was the responsibility of the boards to provide it, and it wasn't
So does it go back to the town manager to
enforce it.
enforce it?
That was my understanding. That could have changed, but that was the way it was.
yeah, the library wouldn't ask for them.
Right, because they,
Right.
like, they'll keep track of every,
Yeah.
Because I think it would be, actually, a better way would be to electronically do it.
yeah.
And
That'd be
if you go
fantastic.
through the town committees, some of them are great and some of them not.
Right. No, I think some towns do it all through the town clerk's office now, where all the minutes are
Yes.
up on that, and that'd be great, but it'd be a great project to go back and you could digitize fairly easily now, all those old records, and,
Because some of them, especially finance committee, go back eons.
yeah. Right.
That's actually how I thought it worked, was that they went into the town clerk's office, and the town clerk's at some point just does a dump over to the library of here's,
No.
but apparently that's not how it works.
I kept one of the committees up and basically you have to go over there and put it in.
Oh, okay.
And again, it's, you know,
Put it in yourself or give it to the
I put it
library?
in
Copy
myself.
is
Yeah.
unplugged, so
Oh, okay.
it's
Oh.
calibrating right now. I'll go back and check it in a couple of minutes. It's running through its process.
So, I can just verbalize what I suggestion is.
Great.
I just added a little bit of intro to explain what the town charter is and how it differs from the town bylaws. Most of what Will had put together I thought was really good, and I think we should keep. I think I just maybe change the wording a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not offended by changing any of it, so don't
Yeah.
worry about it.
So, first question, very broad. Do you want town meeting and a town manager? Do you want town meeting and a town administrator? Do you want a mayor? Do you want something else? Should we have open town meeting, representative town meeting? And I like that you noted that this is the current form, just so people understand what the.
No, I think that's good.
Oops. I think you asked about quorum size. I didn't know if you wanted to.
Can I just, I'm sorry, for question 1, we need to change E. Would you like to explain your
Oh.
answer? Just make it would you like to explain your answer?
Okay.
I think I renumbered it at some point.
Okay.
And I guess the only other question I would have if I looked at this, I don't know the difference between town administrator and town manager.
That's a good question.
Um,
I don't know how I could explain. I mean, can you put like a little box over it or something, like an explainer box?
I don't know, that'd be interesting. I don't know.
Because I do
For a
not,
link?
I thought town manager and administrator were basically the same. but-
Yeah, the little question marks I'll have over some text sometimes, you
Yeah.
click on it, gives a little,
Yeah.
Hmm.
I'll have to ask if they can do that, I guess. Number 3, quorum for town meeting. Lower, higher stay the same. I don't know if we want to request, is that number 8? Is number 4, what the number is? Yeah, okay, it is, number 4. They tried to do this, how many years ago was it? It was a few years ago they tried to do this,
A bunch of times I feel like
and it got bounced.
they've tried to do it on the floor town meeting.
Yeah.
Without doing any kind of review, but. I should say, I think that different people at different times have tried to make it a 0 quorum.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if there was one that specifically made it like 75 or 50 or something, but,
I feel like it was an attempt to do 50,
okay,
but I won't bet my house on that.
yeah.
I think that was a rebuttal to the 0
Was
because
it?
Maybe.
people were mad about
That was too
that.
extreme, yeah.
But the 50 and the 0 are more or less the same. The
Right.
fact of the matter is, if anybody shows up, we're
Yeah.
gonna have a meeting. And I
Right.
think that was the generalization I'm trying to get across.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it got shot down.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Do you think people think that if it's 50, then they're not allowed to come if they're the 51st person?
No, I
What do you
think,
think the thought is there?
I thought that the people who were opposed to 0 would also be opposed to 50 because they thought that we needed more than like 0.001% of the town to make the decisions.
What do you think 150 is?
I don't know. I think 150 was always like,
1%.
there was like a slew of meetings where we always had 140 people and people were just getting like angry because when we were going out to the hall calling, like, will you just come sign in?
And then they'd come sign in
And then
and
they'd
leave.
leave, and then somebody would call the question later on, or call the quorum, and it would be a mess. But anyway, yeah, I think the people who were opposed were, we need to have some people in the room. I think their fear was like 8 people in a smoke-filled, cloudy room were gonna make all the decisions.
Do you think they think that people aren't allowed to attend if the quorum
I
is
never
lower?
heard that, but that
I don't
could be.
understand why that would make people angry. It's not like we're limiting to 50.
I think it's the people who are already attending. I don't know, I think they just thought it wasn't enough people to make decisions. I didn't get the impression that it was that they thought that they couldn't come if they were the 51st or the 52nd or something.
Or maybe there's
I could-
a segment that says, all right, if it's only 50, then I'm really not needed there, so I'm
Yeah,
not gonna go.
yeah, you're right, that's a good point, right? Yeah, that's another way of looking at it. Yeah, I don't know. We could add,
I mean, I think it should be 1,000, but that's just me.
Then we'd never meet.
no. Well, but if
No
people,
elections.
well, anyway.
No,
yeah.
no town budget, no school budget, they'll get there. They'll eventually get there. No fire department, they'll get there. What size select board should Abington have going forward? 3, 5, 7, 9, other. This one, I'm hoping that there's a way to, how we do keep or change, or
Yeah, yeah.
I'll ask the person who puts this together, but I'll be very curious about this one. So I'm sure there are some people who feel they should all be elected, and there's some people who feel they should all be appointed, basically.
Yeah, some we don't get to change though,
Yeah.
like the school committee,
Well, you know what, that's a good point.
selectmen.
So we should take those out.
Yeah.
I think I was just going through, trying to get every board that I could.
or you simply leave it and put in parentheses that it's a state regulation,
Right.
so that they know we can't change it.
State
There's
required.
still plenty of room to be moved.
Yeah, because somebody might be, why didn't you include this committee on the list?
Well, we
When
don't,
we had that
Required by
language,
state?
we can leave that language up top, like.
Right.
why add confusion though? Maybe we need to make the question reflect that of the boards that state law allows change, should these be changed?
Yeah.
That might be clearer, yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Because I know from talking with Lauren that, what is it? Select board, school committee, legislative body.
Board of Health have to be elected?
I don't remember.
thought she said there were 4, and that's only 3.
You can go back and,
Would the water commissioners have to be elected because of the joint?
I think water is by statute, yeah,
Yeah, because of the
I don't see it.
because of how the water works is set
Rockland,
up.
Abington.
Well, you know what? I don't want to say that because maybe it's just 3 people from Abington, but it's up to Abington that wants to be
Right.
appointed or elected.
Okay.
I don't know. That's a good question. Let me find that out. General questions, feel well informed about what Abington's doing, town services, etc. I took out the information one because that was specifically asked in the last one,
Okay.
and we can get a copy and take a look at those results. The result was not pretty. So I changed number 10 just a little bit to say, do you have thoughts that fit into these categories?
Did you send out a survey already?
No. This, the board, either the town manager or the board of selectmen
Yeah.
did in December,
Oh, did they?
November,
I haven't seen
in the
that.
fall. It was a while ago, actually. It was 6 months ago, probably. at this
Can you
point.
forward
I
that to
can't
me?
remember.
And May, please.
And then the open-ended, is there anything we didn't ask that you think is important to improve? Way the town is governed, managed, budgets, or provide services. And would get feedback in there, I'm sure, that has nothing to do with the town charter and bylaws, but at least ask it that way. But is there anything that's not on here that people think should be?
I would like, if you're gonna have demographic information, I would like, are you registered to vote?
Okay.
Can we ask them if they own or rent? Would that be
Hmm.
an appropriate or inappropriate question?
I don't think it's inappropriate. Trying to.
I can see how that could raise some hackles, but I don't know if,
And I guess my question is, why are we asking for their contact email, names, and addresses?
in case they say something you want to follow up
It's
on.
optional.
Yeah.
I understand that, but
Yeah, they might be looking for us to, or we might want to invite them to a meeting if they have a really
Okay.
good, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Not to mention, you're starting a database that in the event of we decide to send a follow-up survey with some of the
Right.
results to the people that are actually engaging with us,
Yeah.
it may help.
Maybe we should make a note of that, that's why we're asking. Would you like to be on our email? Would you like to receive further
contact.
Correspondence.
contacts,
Yeah.
correspondence?
I just don't want them thinking we're gonna sell it to somebody.
Yeah.
Serious.
No,
Nope, it's-
yeah.
We could, should we put something, none of the information will be shared with any other government, any other,
That's a good note.
um,
Yeah, maybe right in the intro.
yeah, this is strictly for this board only.
Well, I mean, it's a public record.
Well, I understand that, but
But-
I just don't want them thinking we're gonna give it to, GMAC or
Yeah,
somebody.
your information will not be sold
Yes,
or shared.
yes.
Outside of public record laws.
Right, but
That's-
Let me, let me pose a question that we might not be able to answer. If, let's just say, if Rick gets the responses to all of these surveys, and he redacts all the names and contact information when he shares it with us as a board, is that public record? Or is that a question we'll have to ask down the road?
I think it remains a public record.
Even with the redactions?
But it definitely is with the redactions, but I don't know whether I'd be allowed to redact it.
Okay, yeah.
Because then I'm altering because when it comes in, I think it's a public record.
Is it? Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure.
But now we're putting in personal identifying information. That's more the issue. So it's name, contact, email, address. I don't know if those things then if we then have to have a way to protect that information, not have it sit on town servers.
Right.
So I'll check in with that.
Yeah, or we ask for the email address, but no name or anything. I mean, I think the address is, I like the idea of the address in the precinct so we could see if there's concerns in particular parts of town. Like, I feel like that could be helpful information. Maybe they could just answer precinct.
I think I'd be willing to bet most people don't even
know what
understand what precinct they are.
Yeah.
Because they have to look every time they go vote.
Right, exactly.
Okay. We are coming up on 6:50. Do people have time restrictions today? I know in the past we've want to keep this to an hour, so.
Yeah, 7:30 I have to
Okay.
disappear, but.
All right, then we'll go for another 20 minutes or so, just so we, I'm just gonna text my wife.
A couple typos on the first page, I think that should be corrected before you send it out.
All right. So with those, do people want to see the changes, or do they feel if we make the changes, it'll be okay to
Send it out.
send it out? Okay. I'll take a motion to, with these changes that we've discussed, to approve and start the process of getting it sent out to the town's email distribution list.
So moved.
So that was, I think, Pete with the move.
Yes.
And Rich with the second. Any other discussion? No? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it's unanimous. We will then hop into
Who seconded that? I'm sorry.
Rich.
Rich.
All right. Go back to our agenda. Future public outreach opportunities. One of the things to talk about is town meeting is actually coming up very quickly. I think we might have 1 or 2 meetings before town meeting at this point. Is there anything we would like to do to kind of use that as an opportunity to get people interested? One thought I had was in the lobby as you go in, is there a way we can put up a board or a couple of boards just to start, give people some sticky notes and just say, write a couple ideas down and put them in some of these buckets that we have, or some other way of giving people some information about what we're doing and what we're talking about.
I would suggest a flyer that we can have on the wall with everything else they hand out.
Okay.
And that way we can give them paper with our contact info on it.
Yeah, I like the idea of the sticky board too, like, why not? What doesn't hurt? People, if we seed it with a couple of ideas so that other people might come along and put things up along with the
Yep.
flyers, I think it's a good idea. I don't know if we want to have the town moderator make some sort of an announcement about it so people could even hit it on their way out. I don't know, people just run out at the end, but, or just to announce that we're meeting and check, your people are welcome to come and.
Mm-hmm.
What are our thoughts about having this in a print form for the people that may not be on the
survey?
email list?
That's a good
And then
one.
they can take it, they're gonna be sitting there all the time at the meeting. They
Right.
could fill it out and drop it off on the other side.
Probably not with the pen, though. They're not, most people probably wouldn't have a pen with them.
Oh, we can get some cheap pens.
I thought we all take copious notes during town, no? That's just me.
Or can we do it through like a QR thing
We
where?
could do a QR code, yeah, that'd be good too,
Oh.
That'd be a great idea.
yeah.
Could do both.
Yep.
I'm just thinking
It's
how many women have a pen in their bag?
I would
99
have thought
out of
most,
100.
but I might be,
I might be wrong as well,
Yeah.
but
I would not have a pen with me at town meeting. But that's just me.
Okay. Any other ideas on, I mean, these are really good ones. I think that it's really gonna get people's attention, so. Ooh, I wonder if I could talk them into putting the QR code on the warrant, like on the back of the warrant.
That would be awesome.
That way, it's like everyone could walk by those glass windows and not see anything, but they're gonna have a warrant in their hands. So I
Right.
wonder if I can,
That'd be interesting. Yeah, I wonder if there's any rules about what goes on that and what doesn't. That'd be great.
The question is the warrant closed already? It should
It
be.
is not. But I mean, it hasn't been printed yet. So just print it with it on the back or something. But I'll find out. But you're right, is it allowed to be?
You know, Massachusetts and our rules. Who knows?
Yeah, they wrote that in 1600.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, in 1700, they amended it to say no QR codes.
All right, that's a good one. Any other public outreach people are itching to do in the next couple of months? They'll have town elections too, but I don't know. Same thing, I guess, we can do the
Yeah,
survey
we
for
do.
town election
Yeah.
too. Anything else jumping out at people? St. Patrick's Day Parade, is there an opportunity? Probably not.
I think it'd be too
it's
spread
pretty
out.
much
Yeah.
spread out. And
Unless you put the QR code in the back of a truck,
Yeah.
6x6 sign.
put it on a beer bottle.
All right. Move on to discuss existing town charter. So last meeting we went through. We talked a little bit about but vacancy in office. And we're coming up to an interesting point again. The idea being, I think, with the vacancies is that we need to rework this language a little bit. It's really complicated. It varies
What
between.
section is that?
This is section 314, vacancy in office. It varies between elected and appointed. We're finding all sorts of loopholes and things that don't get covered, such as what if the Board of Selectmen rejects all the applications and wants to re-advertise, basically? Does the clock keep on ticking? Can they automatically keep the slate, or do they have to start fresh and toss it out? All that sort of stuff that we've seen happen over the past 6 months, just isn't really covered in here. It's very unclear. And then we have another one where we have a resignation, but there's some very specific rules about how it's filled because it's so close to town election. I think my understanding is the Board of Selectmen has until the 28th to decide whether or not to put the Board of Health seat on the election ballot, which I was surprised to hear. I didn't think the board can put anything on the ballot, but apparently that's the law. If they do nothing, it means the seat will be appointed during a joint meeting. If they have to affirmatively vote to put it on the election ballot. It's kind of how it works.
Wow.
So I have to find out if that's something that that's mandatory, or if towns can change that. But not looking for answers now, but just any general thoughts that people might have. That's one area. We also have, I think we stopped at going into the town manager itself. Because we wanted to have the full board here, and in the next 20 minutes, go through a little bit of it if people would like to. I don't know, well, we ran into one issue, I guess. There's some language in the town manager. I think we saw a perfect example of, wow, this requirement that there's a bachelor's degree from a college. It makes sense, but could it also disqualify a really good candidate who has lots of experience? And I think we saw that almost applied here. That we missed it when we were going through the process, and it's why Scott was initially hired on an interim basis until he finished his degree, which he did, and is now full town manager. And I understand that there's a reason you want someone who has a professional background, and but I don't know if that needs to be changed or amended or substituted or whatnot, or if it's just a one-time thing and probably it's not going to happen again.
A lot of times it says degree or equivalent experience or something like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you do 20 years
Yeah.
equivalent experience. I mean, the argument could be, I mean, Bill Gates doesn't have a college degree, so
Right.
I mean, Bill Gates wants to go be a town manager, you're going to say no just because it doesn't have a college degree. Maybe you would for other reasons.
I think it only proves that he was a good candidate. He certainly interviewed well, and the Board of Selectmen certainly ultimately chose him.
Yeah.
And
The only
It just kinda works that way.
hesitation I have, and it's totally out of left field, is if there's any legal action and somebody says, well, he doesn't even have the educational background to be in this job, because he doesn't even have a bachelor's degree. And again, I don't know if that,
Well, then if it's not required in the charter, it's not an issue, is it?
well, I'm not
If they
saying,
eliminate it?
well, all I'm saying is that it may not be in the charter, but in a separate issue of the suit against the town, somebody could allege that he doesn't have the educational background to be doing this. And because of that, it happened that he failed to do something or another. And again, I'm not saying it would, that's a big thing to worry about, but that might be part of the thinking.
I wonder too, like, what's the difference between putting it in the charter? Well, I know what the difference is, but like, you put it in the charter versus put it in the job description?
Mhm.
Like, I mean, job description changes. This feels like more job description.
It did, very much so.
Yeah.
And I looked at a couple other charters that I didn't see an educational requirement, but a couple of the other charters I looked at had residency requirements. Not necessarily that they had to live in the town, but they had to live in a town
Like within.
within 25 miles or
interesting.
something
Yeah.
like that. So more restrictions that way than a lot of them had the exact same. The town manager shall be a person especially fitted, and then they kind of were vague after that. So it's worth a conversation.
Okay. Town manager shall not have served in an elected office in the town of Abington for at least 24 months prior.
I think that's by state ethics law or regulations now, isn't
Do
it?
you think it's too short? I guess it's more of the question.
Too short?
It's 2 years. But I mean,
well, I mean, in a small town like us, with the people that are involved in the town, if things happen and people need to, just as an example, a member of the Board of Selectmen, we have a vacancy. If the town manager leaves, he's on a board.
yeah.
If he becomes or goes for that position, is that rule now enforced?
Yep.
You know,
Right.
that could shoot us in the foot, especially if we have a great candidate that's willing to do it and somebody brings up the issue, you know?
I mean, you can change that language to have it, something a lot, or we could talk about it abiding by state ethics guidelines. And there's probably something in the state ethics guidelines where you can get exceptions or exemptions to them. So it would still, the general thing would be like, it has to be 24 months, but, it would be up to the state ethics board whether or not they would deem it possible or not. I don't know, that gives you a little bit more flexibility.
You can see why it's in there in the event that
Yeah.
there's a special interest to try to
Right,
move people around, but at the same time, in a town our size,
yeah, as long as, right, so many people.
There's another one here about saying shall not hold any elective or appointed town office. It doesn't say whether it's in Abington or their
Wow.
hometown. So I mean, let's say that the person lives in Melrose. Could he be on the Melrose Cultural Council? Because that's appointed office in another town. I'm curious as to whether or not it specifically means they can't be on the Abington Cultural Council, but if they live 20 miles away, then, is it that big of a deal?
Don't you have to be a resident?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If they're a resident of, Bridgewater,
Right.
say, could they be a member of the Bridgewater Open Space Committee? And then,
Yeah.
I mean, it's up to them to make the meetings and stuff, but I mean, is this more supposed to be, no, they can't, if they live in Abington, they can't be on the Abington Open Space Committee?
So, again, I've been looking at Easton's a lot, because I
Mhm.
just feel like they're close to us. And they have similar language, but they have the caveat unless approved by the Board of Selectmen.
Ah, okay.
So, because sometimes it might be beneficial for them to serve on it. And in reading some language, and I can't remember which one it was, but it was it was worded in such a way that we want the town manager to have their full focus on the town and not distracted by being on a board or something in another town. So I could see that angle of it too.
And I think that I see what you're talking about now. I think part of the reason for that is because as town manager, he's really his own boss if he's on another elected or appointed.
Right, within town.
Yeah, within
Yeah.
the town, yeah. Just like FinCom, it's the only board you can be on
Right.
because you're in charge of finances.
I'd be curious to find out how other towns handle, so,
Yeah, I'll keep looking at it.
yeah.
But
Whether or not, so the question is whether or not he can serve on a board in another town?
Yeah, let's say if he's a resident of another town,
Uh-huh.
could he serve on a appointed board in that town?
You want to clarify in the charter that the town manager can or can't do that?
It's in a couple of the charters I looked at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in other towns?
Yeah, so, yes, yeah. Yep. So like I work in Milton for the town of Milton. I actually had to get permission from my board to serve on this committee.
Oh,
It's just,
interesting.
that's the way their town council has things set up in their bylaws or whatever. But yeah, so it's not uncommon.
Okay.
It's harder, like I have staff who serve on appointed committees within the town that, like, they work and live in Milton and are also on the Council on Aging Board, and that's all spelled out too in the, I think it's in our bylaws in Milton, not the charter, but
So in other towns?
in other towns, yeah.
I see. Okay.
All right. For 2, Chief Administrative Officer of the town, I don't think there needs to be, unless Scott brings up something specific, as he sees as a weakness. Yeah, so there's a line in here, copies of notices of appointment shall be submitted to the Board of Selectmen and posted on the town bulletin board. And then you get into administrative powers and duties. I think this is an area where I'd like to put in there about giving the town manager the responsibility of
Where are you?
4.2 and 4.3.
Yeah,
4.2
powers.
And
Yeah,
4.3?
powers and administrative powers and duties.
Just in general, you're not looking at a particular item?
Not yet, because it would be in addition to.
Yeah, so many of them, right?
Just for note-taking purposes, 4.2, Section E. Says copies of notices of appointment shall be submitted to the Board of Selectmen and posted on the town bulletin board. I think it should be memorialized that there needs to be an effort to try to go and get more involvement and make sure boards are doing outreach and going a little bit beyond what's required under open meeting law in terms of.
So this would be F, we're like adding something here.
Yeah, or part of E, however it would fit, but basically that there's a bare minimum town boards have to do,
This is,
committees and boards.
this is talking about the town manager.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
So for instance, they appoint the zoning board.
Yeah.
So I feel like, there's this baseline requirement of who the zoning board has to notify for hearings. I think the town manager, maybe in consultation with the Board of Selectmen, should require appointed bodies like that to have policies regarding public outreach, how they contact people involved. Like right now, they don't have to reach back out to residents who are abutting projects. They get the initial meeting notice.
this is talking about board and committee appointments by the town manager, isn't it?
Right, this is more
So-
general, just communicating with public.
You want to add to this
E.
E, that you want the boards and committees, once people are appointed to them, to do better public outreach
Yeah,
It's almost,
in this
like
section?
power should be establish policies and procedures to require appointed boards to have enhanced public outreach responsibilities or something like that.
yeah, not just the appointments, but
Yeah.
saying that they need to, yeah.
It'll be different for every board, but for instance, again, going back to the zoning board, and I can talk about the planning board too. An abutter to a project gets a notice that there's going to be a public hearing on this,
Yeah.
whatever, and it says, all right, continue to the next meeting. Abutters aren't reminded that that meeting is happening. They don't have to have another notice sent out.
Right.
So you'll hear, and people get busy lives, and yeah, you can go to the meeting and you're supposed to write it down, put it in your calendar. People get busy, or they don't make the first one, or
Right.
whatever happens. You know, and the argument is, well, we don't have to send something out. And I don't like that argument. It doesn't take much, I think, just to send out a letter or something that says, hey, just a reminder, this is going to be on the zoning board agenda.
So is that on the applicant to send out a letter every time when they're,
It could be, or it could be the applicant gives, you know, $50 for postage as part of the application, or we increase the cost of the application by $20, but that being one of the surcharges is,
they already pay for the certified letter?
yeah.
So,
I'm not quite following you how this fits in
It
under
doesn't have to fit in that
powers
direct
of the
one.
town manager.
well, if I could suggest, like, maybe just to stay general for now, it could be something about copies of notices of appointments and expectations for those committees would be submitted to the Board of Selectmen. So it tells, it's kind of, we could talk to Scott, but like, the town manager not only would be appointing the committees he appoints, he or she appoints, but also saying these are the expectations for the committee, and every year, like that's an annual,
Yeah.
upon appointment, we expect you to have this level of outreach, this level of notification, and leave it from, you don't want to get into the weeds, but
Yeah.
I think that.
Yeah, it is not just, I guess, for appointed boards, it's also for department heads, so.
Yeah, okay.
Wouldn't that fit in better under committees?
Yep, I mean, it certainly
I'm
can go
not-
there too, but
I'm not
it's,
understanding how that fits into town manager powers.
that it would be the town manager's responsibility to make sure that appointed boards and department heads are doing this.
Right.
Okay.
So let's say
So it's an enforcement power even.
let's say it's the collector's office that they have to do some sort of outreach to help explain people how, you know, assessment, well, I guess that'd be the assessor's office, but I mean,
Yeah,
you know, to do a little bit more than the bare minimum.
Right.
To figure out how they can educate the public, how they can engage with the public, how they can ask questions, and not just be an anonymous department that people really engage with once a year when they pay their excise tax. It's going to be different for every department. So, you know, collector and assessor is going to be different than veteran services. But I think that should be part of the duties, is to make that a priority. I guess that would be my argument.
So the town manager,
Almost like a social media type person, because my concern is we're talking about this and we're speaking about outreach, and something already jumps into my head as far as the town meeting where we're gonna try to do some outreach. Are we gonna need to post as a meeting if we're all gonna be together
Yes.
around that
Yeah,
area
we're
to
all
make
there.
sure that? So
Yep.
that could complicate things a little bit and maybe put that in there, but at the same time, I'm kind of understanding the concept of what you're trying to push, and I think it's great to have better public correspondence with the committees and have the committees accessible.
Yeah.
And having those expectations set really early from the town manager might not necessarily be a bad thing, but you should also, you know, have an outline what those expectations are.
And it's not saying that, you know, every department head has to have a social media manager or a communications department, but it's more just give some thought. This is
Right.
part of everything else that you do, this needs to be part of the general scope of work that, that happens. Because it's not in here anywhere, basically.
And some of that could be just through the website as well, the town
Right.
website. Have somebody assigned to answer questions based on your specific committee.
And I know the argument is, well, we don't have the money. Well, it's,
For the
this
time,
needs to be a basic
Yeah.
service that's provided.
but we're getting into time and money issues,
Yep.
and
Yeah, and then I don't want the argument, well, this would require 4 extra people to handle it. It isn't. It's part of, again, I'm not talking a major public relations campaign. It's more just as they're going through the day-to-day, keep this in mind, how can we also reach out to people and inform them?
Maybe a good example is how the Board of Health is
Yeah.
reaching out and having conversations and are accessible
Yeah.
via phone and or the website.
And the fire department puts out reminders about, fire safety issues.
Right.
And as you have, if you require people to start thinking about it, it starts becoming part of the daily routine. And we can figure out how to word it, but that's the general thought.
I also think we need to keep in mind, though, that one member of a board can't speak for the entire board outside of a meeting.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And I'm not asking the zoning board to have press conferences, but it's more making sure that the current town managers done a really good job making sure that the website is updated with meetings. Like, this has been an initiative of his that's, I think, going fairly well. So the fear is, all right, the next person that comes in, it's not a priority, and all this goes away. And that's not what we want to be doing. So I would, I guess, like to codify the fact that this should be a priority. Among the many, many others.
Right.
But that this is a stated priority of the town.
And if we continue this discussion, put it forward, we would put the information out there, and if there was pushback from town employees, they'd have an opportunity to talk to us about it.
Yeah, we're not telling them what they have to do.
Right, exactly.
Just have a conversation at some
Yep.
point. Figure out what works and makes sense.
Right.
4.4, financial powers and duties.
Yeah, that's-
There's something in here about, this is just about the budget stuff. Preparation of the annual budget, filing grant applications, and controlling budget expenditures, including approval of the warrant and payment of funds. Right, that's one I thought then. The only thing that popped in my head was, we see a lot of what we're spending money on. We don't see a lot of where the money's coming from. But I don't know if, rereading this again, I don't think this would be an appropriate place for it. Basically, I would just, as they're preparing the budget statement, I would want to know more about where the money's coming from, because it seems like that's kind of left out a little bit, but that might be a personal picadillo versus anything else. But, anybody have anything else through this? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
probably
you're
not
doing
for me.
fine.
Temporary absence.
That seems okay. The only question I would have on temporary absence is, I think they say if it's more than 30 days, then it would be up to the select board to double check the designation. And is 30 days the right number, or is it 14 days? Is it, if I'm reading that right? Excuse me.
I think normally 30 days wouldn't be a problem, except upcoming time,
Right.
right now.
Right.
So the idea is that if I'm a town manager and I have to go away for 30 days, I can make an appointment,
Yeah.
someone qualified, but then if it turns into 60 days,
Then it's
can
like.
I appoint the same person? They're saying, no, the board now has to
Exactly.
Right.
approve that.
I mean, that's an extreme case of this
Yeah.
ever happening, but.
I mean, I imagine if, they have a heart attack and they're
Right.
gonna be out for 3 months.
Right.
But and it does specifically say that if there isn't a failure to make such designation, I would say he's out for 30 days, and then the 30 days relapses, and he doesn't, or he or she doesn't
Yeah.
name somebody else, then it's definitely the board's call. Okay.
Well, there
Well,
is,
using your example too of a heart attack, and somebody's appointed, and they happen to not do a good job, or the Board of Selectmen are
Right.
aware of other things that are going on, that the job's not getting done, we need to appoint somebody that's gonna get the job done.
just hire an interim town manager.
Right.
Yeah, I mean.
Which was simpler when we had the assistant town manager.
Right.
Well, now we have Sonia Hodges, I'm not sure exactly what her title is, but she's the CFO,
Finance director? See,
Finance Director. So she is second in command right now.
And where does she fall within the finance committee realm for that committee? Like, does she oversee them, or
No.
she's,
Oh, no.
she doesn't do anything as a...
No,
to
she's-
them?
Separate from that.
She oversees she's the treasurer, she oversees accounting.
do we think we need to define qualified officer?
No.
Well, actually, that's a good question. What is an officer of the town? Is there a official definition of an officer of the town?
I think anybody
What are you
appointed
looking at now?
by the, is there a definition section? If not, let's add that to it, right? There is a
Qualified-
definition section at the beginning.
Qualified officer.
Isn't there a definition?
Yeah, I just don't know if that's one of them. We can certainly look.
It is not. It is not,
Appointing authority, charter,
Yeah.
majority vote, multiple.
that
town-
might be something to add to
Town
definitions.
agents, no, there is not. A definition of it.
Yeah.
I have a feeling probably MGLs is a definition. It's probably,
Yeah, or it could be.
accountant, finance director. But I don't know, does police chief fall in there? Does superintendent, does
Yeah,
library director? I
right.
don't know.
I think it's, it could be anyone. I would read it that way.
And then that second paragraph says, shall be limited to matters not admitting of delay. I assume that's legalese, but it doesn't make any sense, not admitting of delay. Am I missing
I
that, or
think
do you see that?
No.
I think
You
it's,
see that?
I think it's like you have to get stuff done the way I read it was, they have the power to do the things that need to be done, but they're not gonna be setting up a new capital program, and they're not gonna be introducing new
Yeah.
projects for
Okay.
the town.
We're making permanent appointments.
Right, I think it's kinda.
Keeping status quo, keeping the ship
Yeah, keep it
right.
right. Yeah, that's how I read it. It's not like, hey, I'm gonna come in and,
Oh, it's
No.
their choice.
Yeah,
All right.
fire everybody and rehire everybody and,
my cousin.
yeah, at
Three.
least that's how I.
Yeah, I think especially if we define qualified, even if it's just, as defined by the board's policies and practices or something.
Yeah, it could be.
Vacancy in office, any permanent vacancy. All right, so the next,
And I think, and, you'd have to get the lawyers out, but I think the removal and suspension section, if the town manager is gonna be away for 30 days and they appoint like a totally inappropriate person who doesn't do a good job, I think the removal and suspension could still, because that person would be the town manager, so that I think the select board would still have the ability to take a vote to remove that person from office.
Well, they would be interim or temporary?
They would be called town manager would be part of their title, wouldn't it? Yeah, they'd be
We
temporary.
can't have two town managers.
No, I guess what I'm saying is I think the removal and suspension keeps the power within the select board to remove a person, whether they're the temporary town manager, the acting town manager, or the town manager.
yeah, they put somebody in there and 15 days in, they're like, oh, wait, this is a mistake.
Yeah.
Do they have to wait the 30 days
Right.
and then not designate them again?
Right.
Or can they say immediately, nope?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that covers that part of
You
it.
think it's good as written?
I do.
Does it mention 30 days there?
No.
Is there something I'm missing?
No, the 30 days is up above in the,
Oh.
Yes.
something else.
I think that interim or acting town manager is a totally different position than town manager.
I mean, it could just use a sentence saying this shall apply to anyone serving in an interim or acting role.
Right, right.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right, why don't we pause there?
Okay.
Just look at the calendars for our next meeting. This is the second Thursday of the month, correct? Does this generally work for people? Would you like to move before the second Thursday of March? Should be the 10th?
No,
Yeah.
So,
I think that's good.
in the meantime, while we're waiting for our next meeting, you're gonna send out the survey and invite people to come be our guests as well?
Yep, we'll continue trying to get people to stop by and give some thoughts.
Yeah.
And so, will
think-
you forward that feedback to the board when you get it?
Yep.
Surveys and when they would like to come and
Yep.
who would like to come?
I guess, did I mention that the library director was coming today?
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Yeah. We might not even have the survey results back by the next meeting, depending on when they put them out, right? I
Yeah.
think so.
Okay. Then let's say March 10th at 6 PM.
That's great.
One other homework assignment, we mentioned this briefly last time. Just as a good practice would be to find something in another town's charter that you like and bring that back to the group. And I won't put any restrictions on it. It's whatever you find that is kind of interesting and want to discuss. And
Yeah. We can discuss it next time, but I found one that broke up, it was just a formatting issue. Like they had, the way they broke up all the descriptions of their committees, which was, I thought was pretty good. So it talked about their powers but everyone was laid out the same way.
yeah.
Can you forward that to us?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And just to try to make that a regular practice, just so we keep popping in other ideas. Towns big and small, to see what works. And I was surprised in our conversation with legal to find that there isn't a gold standard, there isn't a, this is best practice. I know so many of bylaw and charter changes are reactive to things that have happened in their communities. But I'm still surprised there isn't more, you really should look at this format or whatever. All right, March 10th, 6 PM. I will accept the motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It's unanimous.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.